everybody, meteorologist Brad Warner here for Region Weather Live with one more video regarding this storm system that's coming through our area for Friday and Saturday. Unfortunately, I'm heading down to the cities over the next couple of days, so won't be able to do another video, but I will be able to update you on my Facebook page, Instagram, just even on YouTube here. I can post some graphics. So make sure you're tuned into these areas, into these social media sites, as well as X, and I'll post any graphics and any updates that I see coming up on there. And then hopefully I'll have a live feed going by the time Saturday comes around. So starting off by taking a look at where this system is by looking at the satellite imagery here off the West Coast. And there you see the big dip here, the trough, the low, one of the low pressures here, another one kind of down here. And so this is going to be digging into the western parts of the United States and ejecting on out. And so the system really won't make it on shore here until Wednesday night on into Thursday. And that's when we kind of get a better handle on things, because we have these upper weather balloons that we send up in the atmosphere twice a day. And that helps the models kind of adjust and realize exactly how this storm is taking shape. And so by that time, by Thursday, we should be able to start getting a little bit better handle on exactly how this will move across the Rockies and into our region by the time it hits us going in Friday and Saturday. And so one of the things I wanted to mention or sort of update on is the possibility of some snow across the Dakotas, especially across the northern parts of North Dakota. Some of the models kind of hinting at maybe something a little more across the north here. And then also perhaps just a little bit extending down into parts of South Dakota. Now, we're really not overall expecting much out of this, maybe an inch or two by the time it's all said and done. Not a ton really expected. We're still really focused on this main area further to the east across Minnesota. Once again, kind of based on what I said from previous videos, by the time some of this moisture really, the heavier moisture really makes its way in, by that time, this low pressure system is already starting to move through Minnesota and into Wisconsin. And so that's when some of the heavier precipitation is expected across the eastern parts of the Dakotas and into Minnesota. But it's possible that before that, as it's just kind of coming across the Rockies, that maybe with some areas get a little bit of light snow across the more western portions of the Dakotas. So while we're not expecting a ton of snow, the problem becomes the amount of wind that's going to be moving into the region later Friday and in through Friday night and early Saturday morning. You can see actually early on, and once we get into Friday evening, some of these wind gusts here across southwestern parts of South Dakota of 60 miles per hour. Then as we go through the overnight hours, 40 to 50 mile per hour is very possible, and even 30 to maybe 40 further to the north. So anybody that does get a little bit of snow even, still going to see some blowing and drifting, so some reduced visibility still, and some slippery road conditions probably still associated with that, because it's not going to take a whole lot of snow because the amount of wind out there, it's just going to whip everything around whatever is loose out there. So kind of keep that in mind, especially, like I said, kind of across northern parts of North Dakota, and then maybe an area extending down into central parts of the Dakotas as well. Might see some reduced visibilities in through here through the day Friday and into Friday night. Now, of course, the other interesting aspect that I really haven't touched a whole lot on is the potential for severe weather. As we go through the day on Friday, enough moisture does make its way into where dew points are going to be kind of nosing into that 50-degree mark. And so a fair amount of moisture here at the surface poking into southeastern parts of Minnesota. And then once we get up to about 10,000 feet into the atmosphere, we look at some of those stronger winds that are nosing into southern parts of Minnesota, on into Wisconsin, in through Illinois, Indiana as well. A real good jet streak that's going to be pushing these storms. There's a lot of storms that are expected to develop, some strong storms expected to develop Iowa into Missouri, down to Arkansas and Louisiana, and push to the north and east through the overnight hours Friday night. And as we go down to about 5,000 feet or so, still really strong winds pushing and driving these storms. And so the Storms Prediction Center already this far out, this is day 4, has put a 15% chance of some severe weather across southeastern parts of Minnesota. And they do talk about widespread risk for severe thunderstorm winds and tornadoes from late afternoon into the overnight hours across a large area centered from the mid-lower Mississippi Valley vicinity. So basically, what they're saying is a pretty good chance of some severe weather in through this region, but then obviously also extended up further north. Don't think the widespread is going to be there, but the potential for the severe or the damaging winds, maybe an isolated tornado, perhaps some hail as well. And while the SPC at the moment kind of has the area in through here, granted, it's still 4 days out. So that's a little bit of a ways, and they are sort of hedging their bets. They don't like to extend things too far, quite, that far out. So I'm going to extend it just a little bit and say there was at least isolated chances of some severe weather riding past the Twin Cities and across Sioux Falls, up into Lakes Country potentially, where you're going to be seeing perhaps some hail and then some stronger winds that far north. But ultimately, I mean, the main focus really is going to be on the far southern portions of Minnesota. That's kind of the area where I think it's got the best potential for seeing at least the damaging winds, hail, maybe isolated tornado. But like I said, don't be surprised if you get an isolated report a little bit further north. All right, the latest graphic as far as is there potentially going to be blizzard, kind of the fairly similar to last night, maybe elongated it and stretched it out just a little bit across west central parts of Minnesota. This yellow area pretty much remains the same area as I had yesterday at the moment. And so those are the areas where I'm most concerned about seeing those reduced visibilities down to a quarter mile or less because of the open country, the amount of snow, the winds that are going to be driving that snow around there. So that's where I'm kind of concerned about the most. And then I mentioned these areas further to the north with reduced visibilities due to some of the snowfall that could potentially fall up there and the winds. You might be able to draw another area further south as well across South Dakota. I guess I didn't do it at the moment just because where exactly this is going to be is still a little bit up in the air. So I guess for those of you, well, in this wide area, you might see some reduced visibility. Let's put it this way. If you get any kind of snow on the ground, it's probably going to whip around and cause some reduced visibility and some slippery road conditions. But for now, ultimately, I think the best chance will be across northern parts of North Dakota. That freezing rain and sleet potential, again, guys, can't emphasize this enough. Even if you get some freezing drizzle, it doesn't take much. That's all it takes is just a little bit of freezing drizzle and bam, those roadways become very, very slick. So we're going to be talking about freezing rain and sleet up to perhaps 1/10 of an inch, maybe more if it really develops in the right way. Some of these roads are going to be covered. And then on top of that, because some of these areas are going to be seeing potentially 1/10 of an inch of freezing rain or more, we're also going to be seeing the winds in some of these areas as well. So not only will the road conditions be a concern, but with some of these winds, especially across eastern Dakotas and again, kind of west central parts of Minnesota, perhaps northwest of Minnesota as well. Now you're starting to talk about maybe some small tree branches down, perhaps some power outages here and there. All concerns when it comes to the freezing rain. Now there is a little bit of a concern that some of that snow that's expected to fall across the north may actually start off with a little bit of freezing drizzle. So I kind of added this appendage in as well from Highway 2 on northward mainly, that perhaps you could start off with maybe some freezing drizzle instead of snow. And of course, that would make the roads even more slippery up there. And that's kind of all I have for you. I wish I could narrow this down for you more. I wish I could narrow down where exactly. I wish I could narrow down exactly how much. But this is the variations between the models of where the snow is going to fall and how much. And I'm just kind of poke around here. You can see that one puts a lot more over the Red River Valley. This one hardly has anything at all across central parts of Minnesota. This one and this one and this one look at least fairly similar to each other. And they've been probably the most consistent run to run as well. So these have kind of been the ones I've been following a little more so as I've been talking about this storm. But yeah, a lot of variations still as to where exactly this snow is going to fall and how much. Just too many questions right now. Same thing with the freezing rain. It's just still very, very much up in the air as to where exactly this is going to occur. So that area also remains pretty big as far as where I've listed on my graphic where to watch out for. And unfortunately, that's just the reality of it. Until we get into Wednesday night on into Thursday, we're probably really not going to know exactly how this is going to pan out until we get into Thursday. And then by that time, things should become more clear, and hopefully we'll be able to get an accurate forecast as to where exactly the snow is going to be, roughly how much we're expecting, and as well as that freezing rain that's really going to mess things up. So make sure you stay on top of things by watching my social media channels here listed right beside me, and I'll keep you updated with graphics on there. I get back late Friday. If I'm able to, I'll try to get a quick little video out with any kind of updates then as well. But until then, like I said, make sure you stay on top of the social media sites. All right, everybody, for Region Weather Live, I'm meteorologist Brad Warner. Everybody stay safe over the next coming days and have a good day.